Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is STD Coalition and AIDS. And of course we have to talk about the STD Coalition and the virus of AIDS, Ms. LWhitlow. And of course Ms. Whitlow is a director of the STD Free Coalition in Nashville, Tennessee. And of course, Ms. Whitlow, let me welcome you to the show this morning.
Thank you, Dr. Haney.
Well, and to say, Ms. Whitlow, that the topic that we're to deal with, STD and AIDS, is sort of an addition to some of the things that we've already done dealing with this whole issue of AIDS. Yes. But what we'd like to do today is to inform our audience as much as we possibly can about the issue of STD, and at the same time to make them aware of what you and others are doing in order to meet this very, very great crisis, because I do understand that it is a crisis. But before we do that, Ms. Whitlow, let's have you to give us some information about your background, your education, and some of the things that were important in terms of leading you eventually to be the director of the STD Free Coalition, and then we'll talk about other things.
Thank you, Dr. Haney. Thank you, of course, for having us on Comments. I believe this is our second time coming. The first time we came to be with you and be taped on your show was in the midst of the syphilis epidemic in 1999. In terms of my background in education, I've received my bachelor's degree from Tennessee State University. I was a criminal justice major, actually, and had minors in business and sociology. I did receive my master's degree from Cumberland University, and I've been a Nashvilleian all of my life. I think going to Tennessee State and also studying there around social issues provided me with a sensitivity to the unique issues here in Nashville. And one of them is sexually transmitted diseases, or STDs.
You know, when we talk about STD, Ms. Whitlow, exactly what are we talking about? I mean, how many, give us some information in reference to identifying and how you identify what you consider to be STDs and et cetera.
Well, there are more than 20 sexually transmitted diseases or sexually transmitted infections. Here in Nashville, we're dealing primarily with, as far as STDs, we're dealing primarily with syphilis infections, herpes, gonorrhea, chlamydia, and of course HIV and AIDS.
And these are the major issues here in Nashville. Now, when you identified this, and I think you indicated earlier that you were with us in '99, and of course it was a crisis according to the newspaper, public opinion, and et cetera. But now when you identify these diseases, when do you make a decision as to the crisis nature of them? Do you say that we're in a crisis nature of these diseases at this particular time, and why?
Well, in terms of syphilis, in 1998 and 1999, there were more than 250 cases per 100,000 persons. And at that time, the Centers for Disease Control had initiated something called a National Syphilis Elimination Plan. The Centers for Disease Control saw a unique opportunity to eliminate syphilis in this nation, and so they began to look at areas that had particularly high rates. Now, in the Northwest and the heartland of the nation, there aren't many syphilis infections, but when you start migrating down to the South and the Southeast, you see an increase in sexually transmitted diseases, and that includes syphilis and HIV, particularly among African Americans and minority populations.
It's a real issue among African Americans.
Absolutely, yes.
And how do you, why do you say that, and how do you say that?
Well, when you look at the data and statistics, let's just talk about Nashville, for instance. For some of the sexually transmitted diseases, even though the rates have, in some diseases, have kind of evened out and even began to decline in the last 5 to 10 years, the disparity between African Americans and Hispanic populations as opposed to Caucasians is very wide. It's shocking, in fact. Some sexually transmitted diseases are as much as more than 100% higher among African Americans. Some are 200% higher. So I'm sure you would agree that that is a very shocking disparity.
It's a real crisis kind of situation, but now it's strange that we don't hear that much, Ms. Whitlow, in reference to STD and other issues surrounding that, or even the issue of AIDS. I mean, what's the problem here?
Well, I think 25 years ago when AIDS first came on the scene, we were kind of complacent with our bacterial infections and the viral infections that we most often think about, the syphilis infections, gonorrhea, and to a lesser extent, chlamydia. But when HIV came on the scene, that was something that could kill you and kill you very quickly. And the images of people wasting away were very frightening to a lot of people. So that took precedence.
Let me interrupt here, Ms. Whitlow, for our first commercial break. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Coalition